The wedding guests laughed cruelly when the judge's gavel struck and the words echoed in the small rural hall. As punishment, you will be given to that farmer? Heads turned toward a tall, bearded man in worn-out clothes standing near the door. His name was Harun, a quiet farmer known to live in a mud house on the far side of the valley, and beside him stood the girl, her cheeks red with shame, her heavy frame trembling as though she had just been thrown to wolves. Her name was Amara, and all her life she had been mocked, bullied, and treated like she was less than human just because of her weight. But never did she think her life would come to this moment, where she was handed over like property, like an unwanted object, punished for nothing more than being herself. Friends who once smiled at her now whispered and giggled. People she grew up with nudged each other and snickered, "Serves her right. No one would marry that fat girl otherwise." Their words pierced deeper than any knife. Amara's eyes burned, her heart pounded against her chest, and she wanted to scream that she wasn't a criminal, that she hadn't done anything to deserve such humiliation. But her voice was drowned out by the laughter around her. She lowered her head, her long black hair falling over her face, hiding the tears that wouldn't stop streaming. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that prove people are worth more than their appearances, please like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Together we can spread compassion in a world that desperately needs it. The day Amara left with Harun felt like an exile. She sat in the back of his wooden cart, the wheels creaking as donkeys pulled them along a dusty road stretching across fields and hills. Her fine dress, once white, now stained with dirt, clung awkwardly to her frame. People stared as they passed, some pointing, others laughing openly. She wished she could disappear into the earth. Harun remained silent the entire journey, his dark eyes fixed on the path ahead, his face unreadable. She assumed he despised her too, just like everyone else. When they finally reached his land, Amara's heart sank further. The house was small, made of clay and wood, with chickens wandering in the yard and goats tied near the barn. Everything about it screamed poverty. So this is my punishment, she thought bitterly. To live the rest of my life in misery with a poor farmer who probably hates me. She clenched her fists, silently begging for strength to survive. The first days were harsh. Amara knew nothing of farming life. She burned her hands trying to light the stove, tripped over buckets while feeding goats, and spilled water again and again when carrying it from the well. Each mistake left her feeling more worthless. At night, she cried into her pillow, replaying the jeers of her community, the words of people who said she deserved this life because she was obese, unlovable, a burden. But strangely, Harun never shouted at her. He would quietly fix what she broke, refill the water she spilled, or cook when she failed to. His silence confused her. One afternoon, Amara sat on a wooden bench outside, hugging her knees, tears falling silently. Harun walked by carrying tools, paused, and set them down. For the first time, he spoke more than a few words to her. "You think this is punishment?" he said in a calm, steady voice. Amara looked up, startled, unable to reply. Harun's eyes softened. "But maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's the beginning of something you don't see yet." Then he picked up his tools and walked away, leaving her stunned. Days turned to weeks. Slowly, Amara noticed little things. Harun always gave her the larger portion at meals, pretending he wasn't hungry when he clearly was. He never mocked her weight, never called her names. When neighbors passed cruel remarks, he shielded her with silence, standing firm beside her. He even built a sturdy chair just for her, so she could sit comfortably without fear of breaking it. These small acts of quiet respect melted something inside Amara's heart. For the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she wasn't a punishment to him at all. One morning, Harun asked her to walk with him beyond the hills. Amara hesitated, thinking he wanted her to carry water or firewood, but he simply led her down a hidden path until the landscape opened into a breathtaking valley. There, beneath the golden sun, stretched thousands of acres of farmland, wheat fields swaying like oceans of gold, orchards heavy with fruit, herds of cattle grazing peacefully. Amara gasped, her mouth falling open in disbelief. "All this is yours," she whispered. Harun nodded quietly. "It was my father's. People think I'm just a poor farmer because I don't show what I own. I don't need to prove anything to them." The tears welled in Amara's eyes. For so long, she had judged him by appearances, just as others judged her. She thought he was poor, pitiful, maybe even cruel. But here stood a man of dignity and hidden strength, a man who owned more than the entire village combined, yet carried himself with humility, never boasting, never looking down on others. At that moment, she realized the world had punished her not by sending her to Harun, but by blinding her to the blessing he truly was. As months passed, Amara grew stronger. She learned to knead dough, milk cows, harvest crops, and tend to the orchard. Her body, once mocked for being slow and clumsy, found rhythm and strength in farm work. She laughed for the first time in years when a goat nibbled her dress. She felt pride when Harun nodded approvingly at her neatly planted rows of vegetables. And slowly, her heart healed. She began to see her own worth, not as the fat girl everyone pitied, but as a woman capable of love, care, and resilience. The villagers who once mocked her now watched in silence as Harun and Amara rode through town together, carrying crates of fruit to market. Amara no longer hid behind her hair. She stood tall, her smile genuine, her presence radiant. Whispers shifted from cruelty to awe. People asked, "Is that really her? The same girl we laughed at?" They could hardly believe their eyes. But the true transformation wasn't in her weight or her looks. It was in her spirit. She no longer carried the chains of shame. She had learned that love isn't about appearance, wealth, or society's cruel judgments. Love is quiet protection, patient teaching, small acts of kindness that rebuild a broken soul. Harun gave her that, and in return, she gave him laughter, companionship, and a home filled with warmth he had missed since his parents passed. Years later, as the sun set over the golden fields, Amara stood beside Harun on the porch of their now renovated farmhouse, children playing in the yard. She remembered that terrible day when people laughed and mocked her punishment. If only they knew. What they thought was her downfall became the very beginning of her greatest blessing. She turned to Harun, eyes shimmering with gratitude, and whispered, "They gave me to you as punishment. But you were my miracle all along." If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like the video, comment your feelings, share it with friends, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every interaction helps us spread more stories of hope, resilience, and second chances. And before we end, here's a special request. Comment below with the words, "Kindness wins," if you believe that love and compassion can heal even the deepest scars.